Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be diving into something you experience every single day. Pain and itch.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. And we've got this fascinating Nature Communications article about how our brains actually tell the difference between the two.
Interesting.
And get this, it was previously thought that these sensations shared the same pathways in the brain. Pretty wild, huh?
Wow. Yeah, you would think that, right?
Yeah, you would think. So we're going to break down the science and most importantly, explore why it matters to you.
It's a common assumption that these basic feelings would use the same neural circuitry,
Right.
but this research really flips that idea on its head.
Okay, so before we get into the groundbreaking stuff, let's quickly recap the basics. We all know both pain and itch are unpleasant,
Definitely.
but they serve important roles.
Hmm.
Pain is like a danger signal telling us to pull back from a hot stove.
Right, exactly.
Itch, on the other hand, often signals something irritating on our skin, and it's fascinating how our reactions differ. Pain makes us want to withdraw, while itch makes us want to scratch.
Yeah, that's true.
That difference in how we react turns out to be a big clue in understanding how our brains process these sensations.
Yeah.
So how do these sensations travel through our bodies and reach the brain?
Well, both pain and itch signals travel from our nerves to the spinal cord and then up to the thalamus and brainstem.
Okay.
From there, they reach a critical area called the anterior cingulate cortex, or ACC. Think of the ACC as a central hub in the brain processing sensory information,
Okay.
but also involved in much more complex things like emotions and decision-making.
So that's where things start to get really interesting, right? What did the researchers at the Institute for Basic Science in Korea discover about the ACC?
Well, they were working with mice and managed to observe the activity of individual neurons in the ACC in response to both painful and itchy stimuli.
Wow.
What they found is there are actually two distinct types of neurons involved.
Two different types. That sounds like a pretty big deal. What's the difference between them?
Well, one type is called non-selective neurons, and as you might guess, they respond to both pain and itch. But the really exciting discovery is the second type, stimulus-specific neurons. Some of these neurons only fire up in response to pain, while others only respond to itch. That's a game changer because it suggests there isn't just one pathway for both sensations, but dedicated circuitry for each.
Wait, so it's like having separate lanes on a highway for pain and itch instead of everyone being crammed on the same road.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
That's incredible. How did the scientists even figure that out? They must have used some pretty advanced techniques, right?
They did. They used a technique called dual egress P. Now, the name might sound complicated, but what it allows scientists to do is see the precise connections between individual neurons. Think of it like creating a detailed map of all the roads and intersections within the brain. That's how they were able to see that these stimulus-specific neurons have very specific connections, receiving signals from a particular area called the mediodorsal thalamus, or MD. It really emphasizes the idea of separate highways for each sensation.
It's already blowing my mind. But the researchers didn't stop there, did they? They wanted to make absolutely sure these circuits were actually responsible for processing pain and itch independently.
You're exactly right. And to test this, they conducted another experiment where they actually switched off specific neurons in the mice
Oh, wow.
using a technique called chemogenetics. Don't worry too much about the technical details, but what's important is that they were able to essentially silence certain neurons and observe what happened.
Okay, so they flipped the switch off for some neurons, and what happened?
Yeah.
Did the mice still feel pain and itch?
Here's where it gets really convincing. When they blocked the pain-specific neurons, the mice showed a decrease in pain perception, but no change in their response to itch. And the same was true in reverse. Blocking itch-specific neurons reduced scratching, but had no effect on the pain response. It was like they could target each sensation individually, providing pretty strong evidence for these dedicated circuits.
So it's like they could isolate each feeling completely.
That's amazing. This research has to have some pretty big implications for how we understand these sensations.
It absolutely does. It challenges our previous understanding and opens up a whole new world of possibilities for research and treatment.
All right, now I'm dying to know what this means for us humans.
This discovery could be revolutionary for people dealing with chronic pain and itch conditions. Imagine being able to target treatments specifically to either the pain or itch pathways without affecting the other. That would be a huge step forward. That's incredible. It could change the lives of so many people struggling with things like chronic back pain, nerve pain, or even severe skin conditions like eczema. So many treatments now just try to tackle both pain and itch at the same time, right?
Exactly. And that can be a problem because it often leads to unwanted side effects
Right.
or treatments that aren't as effective as they could be. But with this new knowledge about separate pathways, we would potentially develop much more targeted therapies that address the root of the problem
Yeah.
without those downsides.
So instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, we could be looking at personalized treatments tailored to each person's specific condition.
Mhm.
It's like having a custom-made solution instead of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Precisely. And there's another fascinating aspect to this research that we haven't touched on yet. Remember how we talked about the ACC being involved in more than just basic sensations?
Right.
Well, it turns out that these distinct pain and itch circuits might also be connected to different emotional centers in the brain. This could explain why the emotional experience of pain is so different from itch.
Okay, that's really interesting. I mean, we all know that stubbing your toe feels different from a mosquito bite,
Hmm.
but it's fascinating to think that there's actually a biological basis for that difference in our emotional response.
Think about it. A stubbed toe usually causes a sharp, intense pain that's over quickly,
Yeah.
often accompanied by a burst of anger or frustration. But a mosquito bite, on the other hand, is that annoying, persistent itch that can drive you crazy
Oh, yeah.
and even affect your mood over time.
So it's like the ACC is adding an extra layer of interpretation,
Mm.
shaping not only how we physically feel these sensations, but also how they impact us emotionally. That's a whole other level of complexity.
It is, and it raises important questions about how these different circuits and their connections might be involved in conditions like chronic pain or chronic itch, where the emotional burden can be just as significant as the physical discomfort.
It makes you wonder if we could develop therapies that target not just the physical sensation, but also the emotional distress that often goes hand in hand with these conditions.
That's exactly where this research could lead us. It opens the door to a more holistic approach to treatment, addressing both the physical and emotional aspects of pain and itch. It could potentially lead to therapies that improve people's quality of life in a much more meaningful way.
This is truly groundbreaking work. It's incredible to see how scientists are constantly uncovering new insights into the complexities of the brain and how it shapes our experience of the world.
And this research is a perfect example of that. It highlights how even seemingly simple things like the sensations of pain and itch are actually incredibly intricate and sophisticated processes within the brain. There's always more to learn, and that's what makes this field so exciting.
It really makes you realize how much we still don't know and how many more fascinating discoveries are waiting to be made.
Yeah, it really makes you think if something as fundamental as pain and itch has these separate, intricate systems, with what other hidden complexities are there in our brains?
It's a fascinating question to ponder, isn't it? If we've been wrong about something as basic as pain and itch-sharing pathways, what else might we uncover?
So what's the big takeaway you want listeners to walk away with today?
Well, I think the key insight here is that our brains are far more sophisticated than we often give them credit for.
Yeah.
Pain and itch sensations we experience every day are processed through these incredibly specialized circuits, not a single shared pathway as we once thought. It speaks to the remarkable ability of our brains to differentiate and respond to the world around us.
We've gone from picturing one crowded road to realizing there are separate specialized highways for these sensations. And that changes everything from how we understand these feelings to how we approach treating them. Absolutely. This discovery has the potential to revolutionize the way we approach chronic pain and itch, paving the way for more targeted and effective therapies.
And beyond the medical implications, it also prompts some really deep philosophical questions about how our brains construct our perception of reality.
I'm glad you brought that up. If we have dedicated circuits for pain and itch, what about other sensory experiences? Could there be unique pathways for touch, taste, smell, or even emotions like joy and sadness? What does it mean for our understanding of consciousness itself?
Whoa, that's mind-blowing. It's like this research has cracked open a door to a whole new universe of questions about how our brains work.
Exactly. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to explore and understand about the intricate workings of our brains.
It's a reminder to always stay curious and keep asking questions. Who knows what incredible insights we might uncover next? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of pain and itch. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those brains buzzing.